There are some cases that never leave you. There are faces that come back late at night. Somehow they get tangled up with your life. They change you. That's how it was in the case of William Harris and his children.
Good afternoon, Evan.
Oh, hello, Father.
Whiskey today, I think.
Good.
Your mother home yet?
Nope. House has been quiet all day.
That gun looks good on you, son.
Oh. I sure fancy it.
You fired it yet?
Not yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Must cost you a fortune.
No. One of the boys found it wrapped in a sack. Some fool must have dropped it down the shaft. Well, one man's loss.
Father.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Good boy.
What is it?
Margaret. Somebody's taken her.
I was in Chicago when I got the assignment. Urgent. 3 days of dust and nothing. I wasn't impressed. The stage company had promised a pleasant trip. That was the first lie I was told. It wasn't going to be the last.
John Eastman is a seeker of truth. Deceit does not cloud his vision. Over the years, he's encountered every type of crime, but nothing he's experienced could prepare him for the dead man's gun. In the American West, a gun touched by evil passed from hand to hand, changing the lives of all who possessed it. Its origin unknown, its dark legend grew, till it came to be known as the dead man's gun.
Hey, you.
Excuse me?
You want to tell me what you're doing in this here town?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Not at liberty, huh? You've got exactly 5 seconds to give me a straight answer. Otherwise, I'll throw your black ass in jail. And liberty will be the last thing you'll be at.
I'm investigating a kidnapping.
Are you telling me you're Harris's damn Pinkerton?
I guess he didn't trust you to get the job done.
Well, Pinkerton or not, if I were you, I'd watch your back. The rules are different here.
Oh, how's that?
They're mine.
And the greeting from the sheriff was only the beginning.
Father? Father, the Pinkertons here.
John Eastman, sir.
He's the detective you sent for.
There must be a mistake. I'm sorry, I don't quite know how to put this, but...
But you don't know if you want to put your wife's fate in the hands of a colored.
There is a lot at stake here.
Over the past 5 years, Mr. Harris, I've been assigned 7 kidnapping cases. Now, I brought back 6 of the victims alive, and I brought back the 7th kidnappers dead. Now, you can't get a better record than that.
You did ask for the best, Father.
The truth of the matter is, Mr. Harris, a colored man has got to be twice as good as a white man to even get a chance at a job like mine. Mr. Harris, do you have a picture of your wife?
Right here.
Mr. Eastman, I respect your belief that you are the right man for the job. However,
Would I be the right man for the job if I told you that that picture has been moved?
how would you know that?
The square above the mantel. It's slightly lighter than the rest of the wall, but it's the same size as that picture.
Very good. But can you tell us why it was moved?
I'm a detective, not a magician.
I just didn't want Mother above the mantel with a bunch of dead relatives.
$5,000. And you paid it as they asked.
Yes.
And you haven't heard anything since.
Father?
Rose, my dear. Mr. Eastman, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Rose.
How do you do?
You in charge of finding my mother?
Am I Mr. Harris?
Yes. Yes, I apologize if I've offended you.
Apology accepted.
Is it true that kidnappers often kill their victims?
If you'll excuse us, Rose, we have business to tend to.
Can you think of anyone who would want to see you or your family harmed?
I don't think so.
What about that miner? The one that threatened you a few months back.
Clay Ramsey. I had to let him go. He drank too much, but I hardly think he'd do something like this.
I'd like a list of every workman who was dismissed or quit in the last 6 months.
Evan? Do you have a sidearm, Mr. Eastman? Oh, no offense, but you may require a little more firepower than that. There could be several individuals involved.
Father says it's the best weapon we have. Never tried it myself.
It's a fine weapon.
Consider it alone.
My son and I will sleep better knowing you have it at your disposal. Please.
Thank you. Every gun has a story. Some are just tools, and you learn to read them in time. Others are more complex. You sense their mystery. This gun was unique. It was more than just workmanship. There was a danger in its presence. I noticed that 2 of its bullets were newer than the others. If you want to know what's really happening in a small town, find a bartender, the talkative kind. Red Saloon seemed the place to start. I never did ask why she was so hospitable. I guess a black man and a lady saloon keeper kind of stand out in Silver Creek. 2 odd characters. Coffee, please.
Got any money? I make terrible coffee.
Layoffs at the mines?
How the hell did you figure that out?
Do you know any other reason for miners to be hanging around a saloon at 11 o'clock in the morning? Do you know Clay Ramsey?
Oh, too well.
They knew I was Harris's Pinkerton. That made me none too popular.
What you putting in that book?
Notes,
You can read and write, huh?
don't you?
A man makes his living with his hands.
So you don't. Seen Margaret Harris lately?
Fancy bastard, ain't you? I suppose that other fancy bastard Harris sent you, didn't he? Probably thinks we did something to his darling wife.
Didn't you?
Not me. But I know plenty of men got reason to get back at William Harris.
Because they were laid off, right?
You figured that out, huh? You're real smart. Well, you weren't too smart in coming here. Stand up. I said stand up.
Damn it, Clayton, he ain't done nothing wrong.
Shut up, Red.
Did you ever kill a man?
What?
I've been forced to draw on 7 in my time. Times just like this. They were real killers. You know the difference between the real thing and all the rest? Their hands don't sweat. What about you? Your hands sweating?
I never did nothing to Harris's wife.
I never said you did.
I'd sure do something to yours.
See, my hands don't sweat. You understand?
Got the list. Anyone that quit or was fired in the last 12 months. Sure is dusty down there. Good and dry, though. You think Clay Ramsey could have been involved?
Not too likely. He certainly couldn't have written a ransom note.
Why is that?
He couldn't read or write.
You don't think he could have had an accomplice?
No, not him. If he was going to do something like this, he would have done it on his own. That's a nasty scar.
I'll tell you how it happened if you promise not to laugh.
Promise.
First time I cleaned a gun, I went and put a bullet clean through my hand. Hurt like hell. Mother bandaged it up for me. I didn't even need a doctor.
You were close to her.
Yeah. She didn't even let me touch a gun until my 18th birthday. You know, Mr. Eastman, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a detective. A Pinkerton, like you.
Yeah, there are better ways to make a living.
Yeah, why'd you become one?
It just turned out that way.
Just turned out that way. There's more to it, Mr. Eastman. Something personal, I suspect.
My wife and son were killed in a bank robbery 10 years ago. There was a shootout, and they were caught in the crossfire. The outlaws rode away empty-handed. No one seemed too interested in going after them.
So you did?
Took a few years, but I tracked them down.
And you killed them?
Yes.
Well, that must have been a good feeling.
No. My wife and son were still dead.
You know what frightens me, Mr. Eastman? I'm afraid that my mother might already be dead.
After 4 days with no word, Heaven's fear was justified. I'd have to move quickly if I hoped to find his mother alive. Is anything wrong?
No. We don't get many.
Pinkertons?
You're the first.
I'm here about Margaret Harris.
I've already told the sheriff what I know.
I understand she was here last Thursday,
She was here every Thursday at 2.
and she left.
About 10 minutes later?
Did you notice anything unusual?
No. She checked her safety deposit box.
And that's all.
The last time she asked for it was over a year ago.
And she had the only key.
Well, I believe Mr. Harris.
When was the last time he checked the box?
I think I've answered enough of your questions, sir.
So, Mrs. Harris checked her deposit box, and she returned it to you. What would you say her mood was when she left?
Upset. Definitely upset about something.
Good morning, Miss Harris.
You following me, Mr. Eastman?
Oh, just luck. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your mother.
My mother. Let's see, she's my mother, and I'm her daughter. Is that helpful?
I understand from your father.
Stepfather.
Stepfather.
Oh, you didn't know. It's a second marriage for both of them.
Were they happy?
Were you hired to ask questions like that?
I was hired to get your mother back.
Then perhaps you should concentrate on that. Good day, Mr. Eastman.
Have you found anything yet?
He's working on it.
Rose was like a princess. She tried to make every man a peasant.
So, what do you think of our little town so far?
I've seen friendlier places. What do you know about this William Harris?
Only what Dolly's told me. Dolores Marquez lives upstairs. Reserved for William Harris.
He keeps a prostitute?
If you'd met Margaret Harris, you might understand. Even her daughter Rose hates her.
You think this Dolores Marquez might be receiving visitors?
Room 202 in the back.
Mr. Eastman! There's been another note.
$5,000 Federal's a lot of hard currency with no guarantees, Mr. Harris.
He's right. But we don't have a choice right now.
Mr. Eastman will be delivering the ransom.
But he don't know nothing about the territory around here. You're gonna lose another 5,000.
Mr. Eastman, bring her back, please.
Looks like he's run off, Mr. Harris. I'd say your fancy East Coast detective and your money have got close to an hour's head start out of town.
So what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna round up some boys and find them. Yeah, I'd say this fella Eastman's not coming back. Better look around anyways.
Yeah, I'll take a look here. Got nothing here.
Well, whatever was here ain't here now. Let's go.
What do you think of our little town so far?
They're mine.
No.
For your black ass Liberty Jail, the last thing.
Fancy bastard.
Following
ain't
you,
you?
Mr. Eastman.
Right,
I
huh?
think I've answered enough of your questions. You don't get many.
Stand up.
I think you're putting much too much
smart
space.
company.
It's all right. You're safe. You're safe.
How'd I get here?
I found you. Down by Reed Pond.
I gotta get to my room.
Not a good idea right now.
They set me up, Red.
It's not what the sheriff's saying. He figured you were planning on leaving town a rich man.
You want to ask if I did what they said?
No. Just wondering if I should add this here alcohol to your bill.
Well, while you're counting up, could you find me a gun?
You are looking for trouble, Eastman.
I've already got trouble, Red. It's a way out I'm looking for.
You have any idea where to start?
Yeah. Upstairs, room 202.
Dolly Marquez?
Nothing at the Ridge, Sheriff. No sign of that damn Pinkerton.
Red says you want to see me.
Thank you for coming.
I don't entertain colors.
I'm here about William Harris.
Never heard of him. You got 2 minutes.
Did he give that to you?
It was a token of his appreciation.
Do you ever talk about important things with you?
Same as most men. They tell me things they can't tell their wives.
And she knew about you, Mrs. Harris.
Yeah, she found out. But I don't think it bothered her too much. It was the money she cared about.
Money?
Mm-hmm. William lost a lot of her money. He gambled.
Her money?
The mines are hers, from her father. William is just the manager.
When was the last time you saw him?
The day before she was kidnapped. He came to me for a loan.
William Harris wanted to borrow money from you.
You lose enough, mister, even a whore's wages are big money. He probably figured it was his anyway. See, I was sort of like an investment. He said he needed to put some money in the box before she noticed it was gone.
Box?
He meant the bank. You know, I haven't seen him since the kidnapping. He must have cared for her. What do you think?
I think you're a pretty smart lady.
Go ahead and say it. Pretty smart lady. For a whore.
Sadness curled around her like the smoke from her cigarette. Why not? She'd lost a payday. I didn't blame her. She deserved better. But not from me. I suppose I could have been more sympathetic. Dolores Marquez had shown me the bigger picture. Margaret Harris was still missing, but I knew the answer was close to home. Very close.
Father?
Evan, get Sheriff Mackey.
But it's not what you...
Do as I say, now. Drink, Mr. Eastman?
No, thank you.
I trust you won't mind if I go ahead. I have a drink every day at 4 o'clock. It's a small ritual which I see no reason to change for the moment. I assume it would be a waste of time to ask for my money back.
You mean your wife's money?
I beg your pardon?
The money belonged to Mrs. Harris. You should know that. You've been stealing from her long enough.
Have I?
To cover your gambling debts.
Shows you just how little you know my wife. She is meticulous about checking the accounts.
But she had no reason to check her safety deposit box, did she? I mean, as long as the mines were producing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. You were terrified that she'd turn you in, and I suspect you may have murdered her. That is your wife's wedding ring, isn't it?
If Margaret dies, every cent of her money goes to our daughter, my stepdaughter, Rose.
All the more need for a ransom.
$10,000. You think I'd murder my wife for $10,000?
There weren't a lot of other people with a motive.
My wife is a forceful woman, Mr. Eastman. I mean her no disrespect when I say there might be a number of people with a motive. Besides, you haven't proven she's murdered.
I will.
I wouldn't be so sure. There are abandoned mines all around here. Some of them thousands of feet deep. It can take 5 minutes for a rock, or a body for that matter, to hit bottom.
Is that an admission?
No, it's a statement of fact. Goodbye, Mr. Eastman.
$5,000 is an awful lot of temptation for one man to handle.
I didn't take that money.
I told him what happened, John, but he doesn't believe it.
All I know is you had $5,000 in your possession, and now you don't. In fact, all we got here is a black man with a scratch on his head and a story.
I know you didn't do it, John.
I warned you to watch your back. Those folks out there, they got themselves all riled up. They're convinced you kidnapped Margaret Harris yourself.
I was in Chicago.
I said they was riled up. I didn't say they was bright.
So, you got me locked up for my own good.
You know, I found a bundle of money in your room.
That money was planted there.
I figured it might be. Didn't seem too likely that a smart detective would leave something like that lying around. Of course,
it was only a few $100s.
You might have been thinking to convince me it was planted and get away with the rest.
You're too smart for me, Sheriff.
So I decided to check on you. You got some reputation, boy. Of course, you ain't with a pinch when it comes to understanding people out here. Take your friend Evan, for example. They didn't tell you about him, did they?
What about him?
Well, back when William and Margaret first got married, the kid didn't take to his new stepmother. But he sure took a shine to his sister Rose. And one day, Margaret caught the kid with his hands on her precious daughter.
What happened?
She shot him. Shot her own stepson. Bullet went clean through his hand. What do you think about that?
I believed in you.
I was set up.
Mackie said you would say that.
Look at me, Evan.
Then how do you explain the money they found in your room?
Someone planted it there.
Well, if you didn't do it, then who did?
I don't know. But I am going to find out. And then I'm going to find out who kidnapped your mother. Will you help me? I'm pretty sure your mother went home after she left the bank.
How do you know that?
Well, she had things. Business things to discuss with your father. And if she did, there has to be something there. Some evidence. Something out of the ordinary. He was off to find some evidence. Or did he already know where to look? Now I was beginning to understand just who had set me up.
Who's there?
This is on your head, Eastman. If you get your ass fried out there, I ain't taking no responsibility. As far as I'm concerned, you escaped.
May I ask why you're doing this?
Because it's my town, Eastman. I make the rules around here. Me. Not you, Not Harris, not some Peckerwood lynch mob. No, I'm going out there to talk to those boys. You wait a minute and slip out the back.
Sheriff, who knows you found that money in my room?
Why? You think I tried to steal it?
I don't care if you paper your walls with it. I just like to know.
I didn't tell nobody.
What are you doing, Evan?
Mr. Eastman asked me to look for evidence.
Looks like you found it. I can tell you now why that picture was moved. I never considered you could cover a bullet hole with it.
You might want to think about getting out of here before they catch up with you.
What's he doing here?
I'm afraid there's a couple of things I need to clear up. Like why you murdered your stepmother.
What's he talking about?
I have no idea.
You must have found it amusing, lending me the murder weapon.
I never used that gun in my life.
That's so you said. But you see, 2 bullets were fired and replaced.
You couldn't know that. I gave you that gun fully loaded.
Well, there was traces of gunpowder residue in 2 of the chambers. And 2 of the shells were new. Now, it may be a coincidence, but my guess is you were gouging out one of those bullets when I arrived.
Doesn't mean a thing, Eastman. You know it.
No, it might, if we find the other in Margaret Harris.
How are you gonna do that?
Oh, I think we can. You see, if she was killed in this room, like that bullet hole suggests she was, you didn't have too much time to clean up. Oh, about an hour between the time she arrived home from the bank and your father's 4 o'clock drink. Not a lot of time to hide a body. Not too many places. Except perhaps the cellar?
He's lying, Rose.
What was it you said? Nice and dry? I thought you got that back.
Well, you were right.
I gotta hand it to you, kid. You knew just how to play me, and it almost worked too. One thing is, you never should have visited me in jail. You know that money they found in my room? Well, no one knew about it except the sheriff. And he had a couple of 100 reasons not to tell.
You killed her?
I did it for us, Rose.
I wouldn't have left you. You didn't have to kill my mother.
That's not the point! She would have taken the money. You know, you must think you're pretty smart, Mr. Eastman. I could have killed you on that trail. I knew you would notice it. You're the only one that would notice it. The wedding ring. I set you up pretty good.
You're a lousy shot, Evan. But that's about the only honest thing you've told me.
Yeah. And who's gonna believe a colored man over me?
Maybe I would. You gonna kill me too, son?
I couldn't let her put us in the poorhouse.
Evan, please.
It's your fault. If you hadn't gambled your money away or spent it on whores, I wouldn't have to do any of this. Now, I'm gonna have to kill him too.
You're right, Evan. It is my fault. Now give me the gun, please. Evan! 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 Oh, God. I'm sorry.
She was leaving. I did it for us.
Evan. Evan. Evan.
Mr. Eastman. As a detective, you don't expect to see the clients once the assignment's completed. There are all sorts of reasons why you don't want to, why you shouldn't. But here they were.
I don't blame you for what happened.
I'm just sorry things turned out the way they did.
How'd you know it wasn't me?
But when you all but admitted it, I knew you were protecting someone. I just wasn't sure if it was Rose or your son.
I hope you understand why I acted the way I did. When I realized Evan was the one responsible, I knew Margaret was dead. I did love her. After losing her, I couldn't stand the thought of losing my son, too.
If my son were alive, I probably would have done the same thing.
It killed them both. I can't bear looking at it anymore. Do with it what you will. One more thing. Goodbye, Mr. Eastman.
It had been years since my son had died. No matter how hard you try, a father can't protect his son from everything. I had done the best I could. Maybe Harris had too. And sometimes, that's all you get.
It's been said that one man's loss is another man's gain. But few ever profit from the dead man's gun.